I love gaming. And when gaming began to explode on YouTube, I resonated with the creators and content on every frequency. And I came to the realization, I want to create, but how? Well, my way in was through the edit. You see, I had a friend. Well, I guess have a friend. He's not dead yet. And he is an incredible creator. But here's the thing, he didn't know how to make videos and share them, which was great for me, except for the fact that I didn't either. So for the past 5 years, I've been working tirelessly to become a better editor and storyteller. And while I haven't mastered the craft, I'd like to think I've become fairly proficient. And so one of the biggest lessons that I've learned is that your edit really doesn't matter. Well, I shouldn't say it doesn't matter, but it doesn't matter as much as you might think. I shouldn't say it doesn't matter, but it doesn't matter as much as you might think. Dude, I just said that. Because here's the thing, I would bet Monopoly money that your favorite creators on this platform are your favorite creators because of who they are, what they do, or the things that they say, and not because they use cool transitions. And if they do use cool transitions, it's probably done in a way to help elevate the story. Mind you, there are some exceptions that apply to this, like music videos or AMVs or things where the edit is intrinsically a part of the video, but those are the exceptions, not the rule. Also, you don't have to trust me, like we just met, so take everything I'm saying with a grain of salt. The number one mistake everybody makes, including you, and unfortunately it also included me, was to do something like this, or to use one of these. Video editing's one job. If you do it well, the one and only thing the edit should really do is elevate the story or message being told to its utmost potential. It's not to say that you shouldn't learn how to use different visual effects. Those tools are in the software for a reason, but if you don't know what those reasons are, then you're basically amputating with a butter knife. You'll technically get the job done, but it won't be pretty. I always wish DaVinci or Premiere would lock some of these things behind like a skill tree. And until you've leveled up your editing skill set enough, you're not allowed to use the edge detect effect. So if you ever catch yourself gravitating towards that light ray effect, I need you to ask yourself, do I really need to use this? And be honest, does it? Adrian, I'm looking at you. When in doubt, leave it out. Your videos will come across less amateur when you do. So the obvious follow-up question is, okay, well, what am I allowed to do? There are 2 to 3 fundamental techniques that will be all you'll ever need to know for making every video. Well, not all you'll need to know, but there's 2 to 3 cuts that'll be what you use to make incredible videos forever. I mean, not forever, but you know, for a long time. And once you know what they are, it's kind of hard to not notice them being used. Now, obviously, there's a lot more to it than that, but I can't cover motion design, graphic design, content strategy, and video editing in one video. So if after watching this, you are looking for more resources to learn, I cannot recommend Skillshare enough, which happens to be the sponsor of today's video. Skillshare is the largest online learning community for creators, and it's designed by creatives for creatives. For example, you can take a course from Marcus Brownlee himself where he walks you through practical techniques for things like planning your visuals. Because if you're like me, you also don't have any camera or lighting experience. And he also covers YouTube analytics, how to understand them, and how to create feedback loops for yourself so your videos improve each time. All I'm saying is that if you're looking for more, Skillshare has thousands of classes covering every creative niche, so you'll never run out of things to learn, and you'll be learning from professionals. And there's no skill level requirement. You could be brand new to editing or have years of experience. There's a ton to learn on Skillshare. The first 500 people to use my link in the description will receive 20% off their first year of Skillshare, and they also offer 7-day trials. So go ahead and get started today. Now, the other thing that we can get started with today are these 2 editing techniques. I mean, wow, what a transition. Now, the first 2 cuts are a combination of cuts that do essentially the same thing in a different order. And it's what completely revolutionized the way I edit. And it is still my go-to technique for pacing any kind of video. I guarantee I'm using them right now in this video, in this edit. And would you look at that? I was correct. You'll see something you'll want to learn early on when you're editing is to remove dead spaces. So in our previous clip, we have this noticeable gap. Completely revolutionized the way I edit. and it is still my go-to technique. And there is nothing wrong with having natural pauses in between conversations, but depending on the footage that you're working with, sometimes you'll need to remove these gaps, and you'll also want to speed things up to help with the pacing. And that's where J and L cutting comes into play. A J and L cut are essentially the same type of cut, but in reverse. So if you're going from clip A to clip B, what you'll do is instead of cutting off the audio at the cut, you'll either lead out with the audio or lead in with the audio from the next clip. Depending on how you do it, it will create either a J or an L in the cut. Because if not, what will happen is, let's say I want to get rid of our gap right here. If I cut here and cut here, remove the gap in between, on its own, it's not too noticeable of a jump. Completely revolutionize the way I edit, and it is still my go-to technique. But sometimes when done abruptly, it can feel very abrupt when you're cutting from clip A to B. Instead, what we can do is delete this gap in the middle and then bring our playhead a little bit forward, cut a little section off of the tail, and just bring it up one track. And depending on where the audio waveforms end and begin, you can then slide the next clip underneath. Traditionally, this would look something like this, and in traditional forms of editing, this forms a J, hence the name J cut. And what this can do for talking head videos is help with the pacing if you're needing to string sentences along together. Completely revolutionize the way I edit, and it is still my go-to technique for, again, it is okay to have natural pauses in dialogue, but when we use audio to our advantage, we can help smooth out transitions. These techniques are used for any form of video editing. So let's say you're editing a gameplay and you want to cut out this space where your character is respawning. Well, again, what we can do is we cut a little section at the end of our clip, bring it up a level, go to where we're respawning back in, make a cut, delete the gap in the middle, slide this underneath, and now what we hear is this. The viewer hears the respawn cue before we see it. Now, an L cut might be a little bit harder to implement for you when you're editing YouTube videos, but you can see it used really effectively here in this scene from Hell or High Water, where the two characters are conversating, and Chris Pine's character's dialogue carries over into the next cut so that we are primed to see Jeff Bridges' reaction.
Hey, we're in a little house in town.
The cuts are motivated by what the director wants the viewer to anticipate, but the editing technique itself involves bringing the audio from one scene either before or after the video cut. And you'll notice that when I'm applying it myself, I'm really looking to line up the head of the one audio to the tail end of the previous audio in this video, in this edit. And the only other editing technique that there's not an exact frame science to it, feel it out. Now, the J and L cut are going to be the primary workhorse for any video that you're working on, but sometimes that cut can still feel a bit jarring. And so you might be tempted to go over to that video transition Dropbox and use the pan or the whip or the zoom through. Before you do that, I'd really like you to consider this next technique. Now, most people are going to call this the match cut, and technically I will talk about what the match cut is, but the principle behind the match cut I think is more important than the cut itself. In a stereotypical sense, match cutting means you match the frame before and after the cut. The most blatant example of these are when you're matching the color and imagery one-to-one before and after. A popular example of this is match on action cuts, or the more common phrase, cut on the action, meaning that in between punches or hits or turns, you can cut on the action and change the camera perspective or the scene to create a smooth, seamless action sequence. Again, the principle here is if you're moving left before, continue to move left after. If you're zooming in before, continue to zoom in after the cut. It's when you do the opposite of this that things will begin to feel clunky. The motion in should equal the motion out. In the gaming world, this is really nice because there's a limited amount of animations per character model. So it's really easy to match a reload animation or a sprinting animation going one scene to the next. I'd ask you to try and stick with these techniques, because it is really tempting to go to the whip, the pan, or the zoom transition. There are use cases for these types of transitions, but there is a confidence translated through the edit when you don't, when you make bold, decisive cuts. Mind you, I'm primarily speaking for video editing. There's different sets of rules that apply for more specific fields inside video editing, like motion graphics. But even with motion graphics, sometimes it can feel more professional if you cut straight to a clean background with a simple gradient and well-positioned and sized text or imagery. When you start doing goofy things like this, your video will feel cheap. JL, match motion cutting, and if you ever have a cut that feels abrupt, play around with using some B-roll or wide shots or even digital zooms to the person to mask the changes in the takes. And that all leads me to probably the biggest mistake as video editors. And it's a bit contradictory because it's not something you normally think about when you think about video and visual editing. And that's to ignore your... And again, it's something, you know, I'm still working on. I'm still working on improving and trying to get better at. But the audio is as important, if not more important, than the visual elements of your video. I can't remember who said it, so maybe I can find it. And I mentioned this in another video, but there's a director, a producer, an actor, an editor, somebody in the film industry that said, if you were to play just the video or visual portion of a movie, it is not going to feel nearly the same as if you were to only play the audio of that same scene. The audio is such a visceral part of a video so that even with really good edits, sometimes it doesn't feel as impactful or as weighty or as emotional because they did neglect the audio portions. So here are a couple practical things that you can start doing now with your videos. Generally speaking, there are three ranges that you can place your volumes. Anywhere from -24 to -30 is great for background audio. If you have something like a voiceover or audio in the foreground and you want some music to fill in the background and kind of set the mood, anywhere in this range is probably appropriate. You can definitely still hear me talking over the music, but you can still feel the pace that the music is bringing. Anywhere from -15 to -24 is going to be music that is present. You want the music to be heard, but not in the way. This is great for emotional moments, action-filled moments, things with a lot of energy in them. Anything above that needs to be a confident choice from you as an editor. Remember that this can be a giant mistake that we make early on. We're trying to hear what people are saying, not the music. So if you go above -15, either the music is used transitionary or as the primary motivator for the scene. This could be for music videos, montages, anything where the music is the foreground. It is what is driving the scene forward. If you're lowering the music volume level and still feel like you can't hear your voice, what you can do is add a simple EQ. Feel free to research this more, but all you'll need to do is turn on your EQ, turn on the high end. So in DaVinci Resolve, it's this 6 end, drag it over to add a low pass filter. This only allows in the lower end frequencies, removing some of those like high squealy noises. And then what you can also do is go over to one of your other bands. It doesn't matter where. In DaVinci, I'm going to go over to B2, go over here, turn on this circle icon and drag it down anywhere between 100 and 200 hertz. Humans naturally speak anywhere between 100 to 250 hertz on the frequency scale. So when we drop the volume level of this frequency with our music, we allow our voices to come through. Some of my personal favorite genres of music are adventure, chasing or running, plucks, spy movie, and percussion. You might be wondering, where do I get copyright-free music? I'm partnered with Epidemic, but feel free to use anything like audio, artless, whatever floats your boat. They're all gonna work really well. Sound effects that you're gonna wanna download are whooshes, impacts and hits, clicks, and crescendos, and every YouTuber's favorite, the riser. Generally speaking, anything that you feel should have some sound behind it, you should. Especially in video editing, we want to over-exaggerate some of the sounds that are being used. For example, this is a video that I edited for a Call of Duty creator, and when the rubber ducks pop on screen,
there are 4 simple tips you can implement right
away. We have a little boing sound effect, and when they get shot off screen,
fights specifically against sweaty teams. Because if
we have gunshots. And in this next section, I had the volume set to -19 so that we can hear the hero's anthem, and then it fades down to -25 as the voiceover dialogue begins to kick in.
Understand the sweat mob mentality, we can counter it. Now, even as a rookie crew, getting more squad wins is easy.
We have a sound for the paper as it folds on screen, and I use this gear sound for the numbers counting.
Now, even as a rookie crew, getting more squad wins is easy.
Whenever videos feel flat or unmotivated, it's most likely due to a lack of sound design. Audio is everything. And look at you, you've made it to the bonus round. Here's a rapid fire list of other very helpful things. When editing dialogue, do your best to remove the uhs and ums as long as it makes sense.
Where were you during the kick six? Where were you during the kick six?
And if anybody ever repeats a phrase,
Where were you
delete one instance of it.
where were you during the kick six?
Something like this isn't an absolute rule, but as long as the cut doesn't feel too abrupt, it will often strengthen the dialogue. The human eye will naturally tend to gravitate towards things that are evenly split into thirds. And so as editors, we can do our best to line things up to sit on these thirds when we're making cuts and framing our video. So Hector here has done a pretty good job of staging his scene, but what we can also do is a little digital zoom and repositioning to try to bring his eye line up to this upper third. If you are going to do some digital zooms to reposition your speaker, I would avoid going above 1.15 or 1.2 because then the image will begin to get a little pixelated. A problem you'll run into when working with a gameplay or a single camera angle is that there is only one angle that you're using. In YouTube or social media land, we get a lot of creative liberties with some of the choices that we make, so if you want to spice things up, digital zooms, digital slow zooms, or throwing corresponding B-roll when somebody's talking about a certain thing. If I'm talking about a sports play, show the play. And memes are okay to use in your video, but they can become a crutch easily. So for the love of God, if I catch you using this in your video, just know I'm coming for you. And these are two of my favorite snippets that I remember hearing when I was first getting started editing. The first is from the one and only Mr. Hayden Hillier-Smith, where he talks about being brutal with your editing decisions.
Number one of the first important tips I want to give you, murder your darlings. If it undermines the value of the rest of the edit, cut it.
And the second is from Miss Junie Marie, and it's probably one of my favorite quotes that really helps me stay motivated and on track.
You don't have to make good decisions. You just have to start making some decisions. Just take some of the pressure off, because when you just start putting it together, you're quickly gonna see what works and what doesn't. And it's gonna be a lot easier to kind of go from there.
Because what you will quickly find out is that you will never achieve perfection in your videos if you just don't get started. I know that each of you out there, including you, Adrian, has something inspiring or funny or even humbling to share with the world or your field or your community. But sometimes sharing that in an impactful way can be tricky. But go share it and do it in a way that feels pure to you. Don't add stuff because you feel like you have to add stuff. Remember, as editors, our job is to elevate the story, not create spectacle. Appreciate you guys watching, and I will catch you in the next one. Peace.